Why is there still a battle, given the evidence available? I mean, what is wrong with people? I mean, over here when we had Brexit, the word expert was almost turned into a sort of insult and a kind of a negative expression. Why are we not, and why are people and the powers that be not kind of listening to you and listening to all the millions of people that are saying we've got a really serious problem at the moment?
Well, 2/3 of the American people and an even larger majority in other countries actually are listening to the scientists, and they're also listening to Mother Nature at this point. But if you're asking why there is a continued level of climate denial, we have a saying in my home state of Tennessee that if you see a turtle on top of a fence post, you can be pretty sure it didn't get there by itself. And if you see persistent levels of climate denial, they didn't happen by themselves either. And the reason is the large carbon polluters made a very cynical decision some time back to use the techniques pioneered by the tobacco companies when the consensus linking cigarette smoking to lung cancer and other diseases was formed. They hired actors and dressed them up as doctors and put them in front of cameras to falsely reassure people that there were no health problems with cigarettes, and 100 million people died. Now the carbon polluters, this has all been thoroughly documented, hired the same PR firms, are using the same approach to put out pseudoscientists who falsely tell people that there's a raging debate about whether the climate crisis is real or not. Well, it's as real as gravity, and the Earth is round. We did land on the moon. It wasn't faked in a movie lot in Arizona.
That was my next question, actually.
Yeah. The carbon polluters are desperate to continue using the sky as an open sewer for free. 110 million tons per day are being put into the sky. That's what's trapping the heat and disrupting the water cycle. But it would affect their profits if they had to take a different approach. And so they're hacking the democracy and distorting the public's dialogue. The good news is most people are seeing through this now.
Because, I mean, there's a very powerful speech in the movie towards the end where you obviously compare this to the sort of civil rights movement or the suffragette movement, and that you seem to be of the opinion that when something is so clearly wrong, eventually as humans we will rectify it and make it right.
Yes, that's been the pattern. And the change sometimes occurs with astonishing swiftness. There was a famous economist who once said things take longer to happen than you think they will, and then they happen much faster than you thought they could. Nelson Mandela said during the anti-apartheid movement, it's always impossible until it's done. So we're close to this tipping point, and what all these movements have in common is that when the straw men are dispensed with and people get a clear view of the central choice, which is between right and wrong, then the change comes swiftly.
But how about the sort of immediate future for your kind of campaigning? I mean, when the President of the United States is evidently not on the same page as yourself, I mean, how much of a step back could that be to your cause?
I was worried it would be a serious problem when he made his speech June 1st. I thought other countries might use that as an excuse to pull out themselves. But I was so happy the next day when the entire rest of the world redoubled their commitment to meeting the terms of the Paris Agreement. And in the U.S., the governors of our largest states and hundreds of mayors and thousands of business leaders stepped up to fill the gap and said, we're going to meet the Paris Agreement obligations without Trump. And it looks as if the U.S. Will meet its commitments.
Do you still fear, though, for his time in office, that this could still have quite severe implications on what's going on?
Well, he's put a notorious climate denier in charge of the Environmental Protection Agency, and he's trying to do a lot of damage. But there is resilience in the American system. The courts have blocked some of what he is proposing. Even the Republican Congress has refused to go along with some of his other proposals. And again, the regional and local governments are filling the gap in many important ways. So he will do some damage, but I don't think that it will be as severe as I once feared.
And because do you think that climate change is almost becoming a victim of kind of widespread apathy and immunity, in the sense that there's so much bad news at the moment. Every time you turn on the news, there's so much going on around the world that we've almost become slightly immune to bad news. And do you think climate change has come, well, this current kind of, the current campaign has kind of come at a bad time in the sense that we're almost, I don't know, everything's just passing us by a little bit when it comes to kind of big news stories?
Well, I think that the constant distractions of the Trump presidency in the U.S. Actually interfere with the ability of the country to focus as intently as we should on solving this crisis. But we're moving in spite of that. And the Paris Agreement sent a very powerful signal to investors, to businesses, to industries. It's like the old saying, the train is leaving the station. Are you on it or not? And most businesses and investors are saying, yeah, we get it. We're going to be a part of this change. Because there's risk in these what are being called subprime carbon assets. They will not hold their value. And there's opportunity in the sustainability revolution, which is now global. It has the magnitude of the Industrial Revolution, but the speed of the digital revolution. Solar jobs, for example, are now growing 17 times faster than other jobs in the United States. The single fastest growing job is wind turbine technician. Tens of millions of new jobs will be created in this sustainability revolution.
The documentary is so much about what world leaders can do to help change what's going on. But I was wondering what can we do, and just from a very kind of everyday perspective, what could just the regular man or woman just kind of living within their means, what could they do to change about their lifestyle?
Well, first of all, learn about it. And seeing this movie is an excellent way to learn everything you need to know. Then use your voice and use your knowledge. Win the conversations on climate. These social revolutions are won, first of all, in conversations, and when millions of them occur, then that changes the tenor and focus of the society as a whole. Next, use your vote, and as a citizen, let the office holders know that you feel passionately about this. It's important to change the light bulbs, for example, but it's more important to change the laws and policies, to put a price on carbon, to stop ignoring the damage that's being done. And use your choices. When you ask for the more climate-friendly alternatives in stores, that sends a powerful signal to manufacturers and designers of better, more sustainable products.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey!